Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning. It's cold, but it's good to be here. And thank you for joining us for our Bible reading for today as we continue on our adventure through the Psalms. Again, we're still in book one of the five books of the Psalms, and we're in Psalm 27. Today's one of my personal favourites. I love this one very much. I hope you do too. So, get on with it then. Psalm 27, here goes. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and foes, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise up against me, yet I will be confident. One thing I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will set me high on a rock. Now my head is lifted up above my enemies all round me. And I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. Come, my heart says, seek his face. Your face, Lord, do I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger, you who have been my help. Do not cast me off. Do not forsake me, O God of my salvation. If my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will take me up. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses are risen against me, and they are breathing out violence. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, I love this psalm very much. Fear is something which we all experience, don't we? All sorts of things make us frightened. For example, I don't like flying. I have to do it sometimes, or I feel I have to do it sometimes, and but funnily enough, whenever I'm in the seat and the engine start, you go down the runway. I always say, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" And so I love Psalm 27. It means a great deal to me. The fear is something that we all experience, and to some extent, it's not always a bad thing. I mean, it's right that we are aware of danger around us, and I think that it's important to kind of recognise that really. But I think for lots of people, fear is something which dominates their life. I mean, I think we live in a society of anxiety. We're frightened of things that might happen. We're frightened of things that are happening. We're frightened of things that we think might happen in the future. In some ways, I hate to say it, it pours out quite into church life as well. I mean, it's quite often we don't do things that we think we want to do because we're worried about it might upset somebody, and we can be a bit frightened of that kind of thing as well. So I think fear and anxiety are something which I mean, it's right to feel it, because I think it's in some ways we need to be aware. As I say, it's a natural thing to be aware of danger around us. But I do think for lots of people, and as I say, it can get into the church as well. We are, I think anxiety and fear can kind of be a bit too all consuming really. And in Psalm 27, David says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Classic bit of parallelism. Notice there, he says the same thing twice in verse 1. Parallelism, it's got like poetry. But what David is saying here is that because he trusts in God, he does not need to be afraid. And because he talks about God, and he uses three things straight away. He talks about the Lord is my light, my salvation. He talks about the stronghold of my life. So he doesn't need to be afraid because the Lord is his light. Now, light is something which shows us the way. Light is something which gives us clarity. I think sometimes the reason why fear can be worse than it need to be is because we sort of don't know what to do, and everything and everything gets on top of us. And sometimes, and especially if you're thinking about stuff in the middle of the night or whatever, and in a sense things can kind of get worse. And I think because we feel confusion, it goes from kind of here to here. I mean, it's like this. And actually, sometimes when you put the actual facts out, you find it's not quite as bad as it originally seemed. And I think when it says the Lord is my light, it means he gives clarity, helps you to see what's really going on. So it guides you in the way you should go, but also light also shows you kind of what's really happening. And I think having the Lord in your life helps you to see things from a good perspective, which actually does help fear, because you actually see what's really going on. So then it goes from here to here, and it's not quite as anxiety making as it was before. So when he says the Lord is my light, I believe he's saying that the Lord gives us clarity, which means that we don't have to fear. And light also showing us the way forward as well. So the Lord is my light. Okay. Second thing he talks about is my salvation. That means being saved. I don't know about you, but I can think of time and time again in my life when I've been saved from myself, saved from stupid things that I've said and stupid things that I've done. And I can think of time after time after time when I've been, I've been rescued by God from all sorts of situations, and the Lord is our salvation too. And actually, when you feel God has saved you from something, it's worth remembering that, actually, so we can remember that God's still in our life and God working in our life, and so the Lord is my light, but he's also my salvation too, and that's kind of really important too. He also goes on, the Lord is the stronghold of my life. A stronghold used to be in a town or a city, used to be like a strong tower, and it was a place of refuge. And in times of danger, or if your city was under attack, you went into the stronghold of the city. It was kind of a strong tower in the middle of where people could go for refuge in times of danger. And they used to say that if you were trying to take a town or take a city, you need to you need to take the stronghold, is what you needed to take. And so a stronghold or refuge is a place where you can go in time of danger. And the Lord actually is a refuge of our life. He's a place where we can go in danger when we feel we're in trouble. So he says, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom then do I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom do I need to be afraid? So that's why David says you can trust, and you can trust in God, and therefore that alleviates a lot of his fear. He says, why do I need to fear? But what is interesting about David is he wasn't just a good commander. He wasn't just a good chap. All this is actually set in the context of worship, because David goes on to say, one thing have I asked of the Lord, and this do I seek, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. And it's interesting actually, because it's in the house of the Lord, because this is David wrote this. And the time of David, there was no temple. The temple hadn't been built yet. The house of the Lord kind of was a tent. It was kind of the place where God is. And actually for us, to live in the house of the Lord doesn't just mean to live in church all the time. Most of us got homes to go to. It means being where God is. And David wasn't just a great commander. He was a great man of faith. And he worshipped God as well. And he says, to behold the fair beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. So he talks about, he's asked one thing of God, which is to be able to live in the house, which means to be where God is. And he wants it for a couple of reasons. First, he wants to be able to behold the fair beauty of the Lord. He wants to have his soul fed, that, at all times, God can keep his faith alive, and he can have his faith restored, and he can have his soul fed, to behold the beauty of the Lord, to sort of bask in God's love and God's presence. And also says to inquire in his temple. And that's important to a place where you can go, where you can consult with God. I remember a few years ago, I got into some legal difficulties, and I was concerned at one point that my career would be over. I was concerned. There were several lawsuits hanging over my head. So it's all been cleared. It's all gone away. It's absolutely fine. But I was really worried. I thought my career was over, and I was a worried man, as you can imagine. But I thought, well, nothing else to do. I went in church, and I sat down in the chapel, and I said to God, here I am, here I stand here, I could lose everything here. But as long as I have you with me in my life, that's all I need. Everything else may fall apart, but as long as I've got you, I've got in my life. When Jesus is all you got, you know that Jesus is all you need. And God was there for me at that difficult time, and things did eventually resolve, and it was fine. But I was able to inquire in his temple. So this wonderful psalm, which I love to bits, David talks about why all this stuff you might be frightened of. He says, I do not need to be frightened. He says, because the Lord is my light helps us to see clarity and be able to see the way ahead. The Lord is my salvation, the one who saves me from things. The Lord is the stronghold of my life, a place where I can go in time of trouble. For all the reasons, why do I need to fear? But as Noah wasn't just a great commander, he was also a great church person, a great God person as well. Because he said, the one thing I ask of the Lord, just one thing do I seek, to dwell in the house of the Lord, to be where God is all the day of my life, to behold the fair beauty of the Lord, to be able to bask in and be fed by the presence of God, and to inquire in his temple, a place where you can go and consult God about what to do and so on and so on. And for that reason, at the end, he says at the end, I love this, bear in mind, wait is code for have faith in. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage.